Okay, hello everybody and welcome. I'm Iver Gegenadze, head of the International Department at Tbilisi State Conservatoire, and in collaboration with Málmos Academy of Music, we present the final session of the International Panel Discussion Series, Freedom in Music Education. It is such a privilege to be here and to talk, and of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Ukraine. To go back to the project, I'd like to remind you that we had the 6th session, and this is the final one, and which was and during the sessions we discussed the current challenges of the high music education, and international experts, professional musicians, and the representatives of higher educational institutions were the speakers of the events from more than 10 countries of the world. Discussions were live streamed and published on the Tbilisi State Conservatory for CT from February 28th to April 4th. So, and today is the last session, as I said, and the topic of our session is the dichotomy of understanding freedom as a tool or freedom as an aim. And today's speakers are Thomas Winther. He is the head of Music School and also the former rector of the Royal Academy of Music in Aarhus, Denmark. I say this title of you because the Georgian audience knew you more from that. And also our speaker is today Julia Mustonen-Dahlquist. She's a pianist professor at Karlstad University and president of the Ingersoll Piano Foundation. Also, I'd like to apologize for the audience that our third speaker, director of the Tbilisi State Conservatory, Nana Sherkaz, is not able to join us today for the very serious personal reasons, and she apologized to all of us. And I'd just like to say that all the opinions that will be stated here are the personal opinions of our speakers and also me as a moderator, and it may be different from the official position of the Tbilisi State Conservatoire. For this final session, we asked our participants to discuss following issues. We gave them the questions, and they could present their own opinions about that. The questions were: are the universities and the music institutions responsible for raising the generations with a sense of civic responsibility? What approaches were they using, and what impact that these approaches have? And also, how do they see freedom in the music education? And also to answer the general question, freedom as a tool or freedom as an aim in the in music and in the high music education. And I'm very happy that for the final sessions we have very experienced speakers that have years of experience in the higher education. And our first speaker will be Thomas Winther. In 2019, he was elected the president of the Association of Danish Music and Culture Schools. And as president, Thomas Winther represents 98 schools nationwide and represents the school's political and strategic interests in relation to the Ministry of Culture and the municipalities. I will talk more about biography because you were our speaker for the previous session as well. And so we will be listening to you thoroughly now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivory. Yes, as you said, I had a previous talk in this session or in this series. My first talk was about the East-West divide and whether gaps are deepening or closing. And it all became rather theoretical, and of course also due to current affairs, it was focusing a lot on some very political issues. In trying to approach the general topic of freedom, the challenges of the liberal democracies, freedom of artistic expression, the roots of and reasons for autocracies and populism, I looked at issues from not only a political view, but also philosophically and unfortunately, maybe even slightly from an even slightly pretentious perspective. I'll try this time to be less pretentious, more practical, and try to look at answers from a student and university perspective. As you said, Ivory, the questions this time is put forward under the headline, is freedom a tool or an aim in itself? And I'll try to give an answer to the questions that you mentioned. Are universities responsible for educating future generations, or to have a sense of civic responsibility? What approaches have the most impact? How do we see freedom at higher music education institutions? And maybe even give a few practical examples. Those who heard my talk my last talk 3 weeks ago will not be surprised that my answer to the first and main question is yes. Higher music or higher education as such have a very important challenge in developing a sense of civic responsibility and what we could call artistic citizenship with all students. I think it is important to understand that for artists and arts institutions to maintain their relevance in society, the artists of tomorrow must accept that it is simply not enough to master your art. You also must use your art in a broader sense, in a broader social sense. For many musicians, focus has over the last decade or so changed from music for music's sake to music being instrumental for creating social connections between people, facilitating integration and inclusion. Musicians intensify making music outside the concert halls and musical venues. Musicians have become music makers for those people who don't listen to music in the traditional sense. This is a change of paradigm, I think, that cannot be overestimated. And the change in focus will accelerate. You as students, teachers, and institutions should be aware of this. We as teachers and institutions should be aware of this. You can observe the trend in the way many symphony orchestras, for example, participate in outreach projects and work with children. You see it in the way music schools that I work in become a part of the social and welfare work in local communities. And you see it in us having this discussion as we are speaking or as we are having right now. In order to succeed in living up to future requirements, universities and conservatoires need to employ teachers with more, and in many cases, different competences than only musical. We need teachers that understand pedagogy beyond music pedagogy, teachers who can not only play and teach music at a very, very high level, but can also use music as a tool for non-musical learning and social processes. This is why you as students and the higher music education institutions have to focus on civic responsibility and artistic citizenship. Competences you can use to practice responsibility towards society in some form or another will be a future requirement for employment. I think that is actually so. It will be a future requirement for employment that you have these competences. It's also important to understand that artistic citizenship, as we talk about it here, is not about not making art at the highest possible level. There is absolutely no doubt that music, as you and we perform and create it, have enormous artistic value and brings both joy and insight to a lot of people. In order to do this, we must have the best and uppermost musical education. Artistic citizenship is about taking on additional obligations and acquiring more competences. It's about adding on, not throwing away. Higher music education institutions have an enormous responsibility in facilitating this change and in helping transform the mindset of students and teachers. We need new ways to look at pedagogy, new ways to understand our audiences, new ways to look at the concept of the work. For example, in some pedagogical or social processes, the work can be the process in itself and not necessarily the end result. I strongly believe that both social, political, and artistic freedom is a prerequisite for the changes I have just described. Freedom for everyone understood as general acceptance of pluralism, diversity, anti-dogmatism, and that everyone has the freedom of expression and the freedom to choose and pursue happiness and their own path in life. So what does this mean in artistic and musical in an artistic and musical educational context? First and foremost, it is the freedom for students to make their own artistic and musical choices. It's about institutional open-mindedness and securing the students' freedom to interpret works and play and sing and compose in accordance with the students' own artistic values and beliefs. It means that the institutions, rather than offering a fixed set of knowledge, a fixed set of aesthetics and an understanding and fixed understandings, should focus on developing each individual student's talent and potential. Rather than only focusing on passing on tradition and set formulas, the individual student should be in focus, and his or her talent should be determining the teaching he or she receives. This does not, of course, mean that we should stop teaching tradition. We can learn a lot from Bach and Beethoven and Brahms and Count Basie and the Beatles and Bruno Mars, just to name a few Bs. It's also enormously helpful to know about church modes if you are a jazz improviser, or to know Messiaen's second modus if you are a contemporary composer, or the Anon etudes if you are a pianist. But you should always, as students, reflect on all this from your own perspective and not accept that you are taught tradition in order to play or compose or sing or understand music in the right way. I'm sure for many of you, this is stating the obvious, but sometimes it is good to remind ourselves of the obvious. And then, of course, entrepreneurship, co-creation, artistic citizenship, focus on gender issues, and all the other things we discuss in relation to higher music educations are all things we must focus on so that we can contribute to forming music life and society in the future. These are all topics that should be included in curricula and should be integrated in all teaching at higher music education institutions. So is freedom a tool or an aim in itself? Well, as with so many other questions, the answer is complex, I think, and cannot be answered with a simple this or that, a yes or a no. Freedom is both. In my last talk, I claimed that having a political system based on liberal democracy is a prerequisite for free artistic expression, and at the same time that free artistic expression is a prerequisite for liberal democracies. In the same way, freedom is a prerequisite for free, relevant, and modern musical training. But this training is also a prerequisite for educating musicians that can contribute to modern music education, and so the free society and to the free societies that we want. And now it's going to be a very long time before I say prerequisite again. It's a circular argument where one factor is dependent on the other. And if the chain is broken, you have neither free expression nor liberal democracies, and neither relevant higher music education institutions nor individual artistic freedom. So I ended on a slightly pretentious note anyway. Do forgive me, but thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, and of course, like we'd like to focus on these topics. And where I've been now to England and in Scottish Royal Conservatory in Glasgow, and they were and one guy presenting. I told this story already, but I think the our audience might be interested in that a jazz man made the piano concerto, and they had the piano concerto arrangement, and they had the piano fest, and usually this piano fest is very modernish and has new approaches. And when I saw in the program, they said, oh, we have the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2 in the program, and I was like, okay, this is interesting, but it's like one of the most famous, and I was not really expecting on that piano fest. And then the title continued, arranged for jazz orchestra, and then I was like, okay, this is not what is happening. And it was pretty interesting. The performer, the arranger, came out and he said, like, this is kind of the mix between jazz gig and the classical gig. And when we start the classical concert, for example, at 6 p.m. and the jazz starts at 10 p.m. and it started in the middle at 8 p.m. And also, like, the pianist himself arranged it for like 30 or 35 minutes piano concerto for 1 hour and a half long arrangement, and there was a saxophone solo and trombone and baritone and trumpet solo, and of course the piano. But it was very well done, and I think when you talk that, yeah, the high quality of the music doesn't go anywhere, and it doesn't mean that when you have these new approaches and new challenges and new discoveries, first you need the basic professionalism within your instrument. And what we're talking now is like how to develop that and how to make ourselves interesting, and with entrepreneurship and with making accents on different issues such as equality, diversity, inclusion, and etc. And it happened that during within the three movement, of course, in the classical concerto, especially when you are from the kind of Russian influenced school educated, I was very surprised. And for us to clap between the movement, it's pretty amateur. You are pretty amateur if you do that. And of course, the first movement in the Rachmaninoff concerto is with like a huge emotion, and you really want to clap, probably. And he encouraged the audience to clap, and he was very much engaged, and he even stopped after the first movement and talked a bit how he made it. Was pretty different, and audience took it as it was something that was new, but new discovery, and nothing that is like, oh, how can you touch the Rachmaninoff piano concerto? But I think this came because it was very professionally, very high quality, with high quality, and done with the respect of the composer and respect of the music, and it came within. So I guess all these additional things plus the basic level of understanding the music, then it comes together, and then it is also not makes resistant the audience that is not used to it, that is more conservative or traditional. So yeah, thank you again very much. And now our speaker, then I will present the next speaker for today, Julia Mustоnen-Dahlquist, who's a professor of music at Karlstad University, artistic director of Glasgow Music Festival and Glasgow Winter Piano Academy. And from 2017, she's the artistic director of the Nordic Piano Competition, and she's also the president of Ingesund Piano Center. So I took some of the titles that you have, so I will not count all of them. So thank you very much for being with us, and we are listening to you
now. I was a little bit cutting, in the in the connection. Yeah, thank you so much for the nice presentation, and also thank you so much for my colleague for a wonderful speech. So it was a true pleasure to hear. I am maybe I have a little bit different approach because I am not really this like organizer, or it seems like I do a lot of organization, but actually this is in such a small musical community, and this is with one aim only, is to give the best for our students, or for my students who are here. We're trying to engage them in different, in different projects and festivals and academy and some special projects, only because, we thought about for them having a lot of interesting things to do, and not, so all my titles, actually, they are not so important, like a rector of the conservatory, who would understand probably much more some global political issues or connected to the music education in the better way. I'm a little bit more practical person, if speaking about the freedom for the students, or, because this is what we are fighting for every day in our life, or this is what I'm having, like maybe my main goal, like a piano professor, is to teach my students in this way that they will be free in the end and will not need any education. So I'm more kind of from this perspective, maybe answering these questions. I just arrived from Dubai. I have been there together with my complete piano class. The project, what we did was participating in the World Expo, where we organized a Nordic Piano Music Week. Project was to bring to the pavilions, to the representatives of Nordic countries, and also abroad. We visited Australia, and we visited Ukraine, and we visited Canada and Latvia. With the Nordic program, with the Nordic music, we presented each day one concert per day. But generally, this is not important what we did there, but it's important that it was more of a kind of a peace mission. We brought together with us a white grand piano, and it was absolutely spectacular. Generally, the atmosphere of this event, what only promotes practically a friendship, internationalization, sustainability, and where all countries, where this doesn't exist in the expo, doesn't exist any boundaries, and it was incredible atmosphere. Actually, we just arrived 2 days ago, and we went with our white grand piano and played. And this actually this openness to everything, and this development, seeking for the development and sharing. So I think this is what I got very inspired for, and openness of the people who are working it at the expo, representatives from all the countries. We worked together with the ambassadors, Nordic ambassadors, and spoke to and the openness was quite spectacular, actually. So it was very, very inspiring. How to connect it to the civic responsibility. So somehow I believe that university, this is a place where you share the ideas, the openness, where you get inspiration, and it's difficult really to put the word how can we raise the generations of this civic responsibility? How can we do this particularly to impact? But I think we can impact them only personally, because music education is very special. We educate individuals, personally me, one person at a time. The contact with the student is quite tremendous, because you go through a lot of things in life of the young musician, because to be a young musician is not so easy. This is a lot of different kind of career path development problems, you know, with a lot of disappointments and a lot of extremely happy moments, and you go through all this together. So I don't know, how can institutions take on the responsibility to educate the civic responsibility, but each of the particular individual professors, I think this is more up to each particular individual professors. Of course, in our university too, we have these big goals, and we have the different things what we talk about globally, but in the end, everything what is happening just in the classroom, and this communication, and in this what the professor want and will contribute. And yeah, and I think like our children, somehow they are not becoming this what we tell them to become, they're becoming what we are. So in the same sense, is the same with this, with the students. This is our responsibility to not raise the generation and civic responsibility, but to be a person who taking this and having this sense of responsibility, and just inspiring by being this person, inspiring the closest people who you teach to be the same open, to be the same, yeah, to seek for all this, freedom in everything, actually. So this is the approach for me to this impact. I think the individual contact and us, actually, who we need to raise also all the time, and this is very important. And yes, how do I see the freedom and high music education? Again, I see this quite practically, because when quite young individual is coming to be educated anyway in music. So I am educating pianists who are playing quite much on stage, and on stage, whatever will happen, they will be alone there. You will be not with them. You will have to able to give them all necessary tools to be alone on the stage and to be free to speak artistically this, what they wanted to speak. And this is very easy to say, but very difficult to do, because I think this is the highest aim of every artist, is to learn to speak on voice, out, on true voice, free voice. And that's why I think the freedom for me in education means something else. It means to raise this, to be able to educate in a very strong way and give the tradition, but leave the freedom for expression. And that is something what I think very essentially important for me, because in the end, they will be alone and talking from the stage with own musical voice. To help this, this is my actually goal, like a pedagogue, and this is what freedom means for me in the education. What I'm thinking about, this is the freedom of the musical voice of the young artists on stage, and more time I would educate this young person, more and more the voice would grow and be stronger. And this is the goal and aim of me. I think that was it. If you.
Thank you very much. Of course, that the practical approach, and not only from top-down approach, but also the bottom-up approach and the individual level is very important. And thank you for your insights. And I remember you also have there a very diverse and very international class, and at Ingesund, and I was wondering, like, to go into that and how you managed that to you said that to give them some kind of tools and give them some kind of insights, that they would be alone and they would be free on stage, but they are also like very different from different continents, from different countries with their own experience. I remember when we were talking on this one of the piano seminar sections, and with like Western and especially Nordic musicians, their experience is like that. Oh, I like the Chopin nocturne, and I decided to start the piano, start learning piano. And yeah, at the age of 14, I listened to Prokofiev and then Seventh Sonata, and I started reading it immediately. And I knew that I was become the pianist. And then we had examples like, for example, in my case, in some more Eastern educated musicians, where they are like from very early childhood, they are determined, they're pedagogues, their parents very much involved. So this is very diverse there, and I want you to give us some kind of insight, and also about the piano seminar course that you have, for example, there, that it's not you only have the individual approach, but you have this wider kind of forum or hub for them to talk about the issues that are challenging. I remember you had recording sessions to teach them how to record themselves, and also to learn the differences between audio recording and video recording, and also to talk about how to learn faster, how to be independent, and the sight reading and the memorizing. And yeah, I think also, like, what I remember from my English experience is that this hub really helped also, other than the individual lessons. So yeah, maybe you could answer that.
Yeah, this seminar is absolutely wonderful forum for not only for me to share experience with my students, but also for all my students to share experience with each other. The seminars are a part of our education, is in the schedule. You know, this is a piano seminar. So we created this education just a few years ago. Our bachelor education is quite new, and tried to actually create this education and build it in this way that it would support the performing artists. So we try to put this education in this way that it would support the most the artists who want to be performers, to know, you know, that all the theoretical subjects, they are helping the performing subjects somehow. And so this was idea what came very strongly, so that we don't have to, we having a performance class every week also, where we play for each other and then discuss who played, and, you know, give comments, and quite open, you know. And that's very important to have a group who supports, you know. So the seminar, this is in principle, this is also the same kind of a group lesson, but we are not playing, we are talking instead. And then each week we creating a different topics, and topics also comes from students themselves, not only from me. So I am doing the schedule for this seminar, on the requests actually from the students. What should we talk about? What do you think do we need to talk about next time? Because the life of the young artist is very challenging, and sometimes you need support and ideas, and sometimes I am aware that one person cannot give it all, and especially because we have students from all continents, and we are not so big school, we are quite small. The piano department, I think, is less than 20 people in our school. And that is a very, very little group, and very well connected, of course, because we practice together in the corridors, and, you know, everyone know each other quite well. And this is very interesting to be leading this very extremely intensive and creative group of people, and we can. Where else we can share and hear the ideas from really the complete, from all around the world. For example, some very small issue like recording or stage fright, you know, all people can have such an extremely different experience with that already. Somebody had much more experience, somebody less, somebody needs help. Yeah. And all the different, it was very interesting to talk about the backgrounds and how this affected the life of the people, because it is tremendously interesting. Sometimes I am teaching in the private lessons, but I never got to hear these things, because we're busy working with the music. But in these seminars, I got to hear a lot of background information, what might be very useful also for my teaching, how to approach several issues. For example, about the stage frights or something like that, because when the people start to share and also help each other in these seminars, it was absolutely wonderful to see how many ideas comes out, and how many thoughts they are, and a lot of course, the will to help each other and to share the information is absolutely wonderful. And this is also one of the tools to
thank you. And also I think when it comes to like individual approach, that we are like one-to-one when we have like performance lessons, it is very important to know the background. For example, I had like in my childhood like a lot of more competitions, and also like kind of policy in this more post-Soviet countries is that the only way that you can do something is like through competitions. And we were like every time somebody won a competition, they were exempted from the examination. So basically the culture happened that unless you went to the competition, everybody was exempted, all the laureates, all the diplomats, and that it meant that, oh, you are a loser if you go to the examination, because all the good ones are accepted from the examination. And that was wrong, very wrong. And then when I got older and older, I had kind of negative feeling towards the competitions. I'm like, yeah, maybe not, maybe I don't like the ranking, and everyone is different. And I remember Thomas was saying during the last session that he was here, that in the music schools especially, we have to remember that we're not raising not all of them will become the professional musicians, and not all of them will have their career as a concert musician. And we have to have some kind of approaches. And also like when we have even this mix of like the ones who will work with the orchestras, who will work with the venues, and they will be successful, they will be concert musicians, they also need to have a touch with those who will not be there, because they will be their audience, they will be the ones who will buy the tickets. Because I remember one my friend saying that in the music school, when the teachers were discussing how do we approach our students, they were like, you have to remember that you are also raising the parents of the next generation pupils, because the ones who are usually teaching learning themselves, then they tend to have this family connection with the music and the music education. So Thomas, do you have some kind of suggestions maybe how you integrate with those who will pursue this profession as this music as their profession and their way of life, and the ones who will who just want to have an experience?
Well, that's a very big question, Iver. I think I really like to comment on some of the things that Julia said. I think it is so important. You were talking about sort of being role model and and working exemplary, and I think that is so true and so very right, that you have to be what you say you are. Even as a professor or as a teacher, and even as an institution, you cannot claim as an institution that we take gender equality very seriously if you only have 20% female students or teachers. So you have to be exemplary, and one of the ways you can be exemplary is, of course, on an individual level, to be a role model and to actually not only tell what you think is right, but to show and do what you think is right. And I think that goes for the individual teacher, and it goes for the institutions. Last time I was in Arvika, or in Ingesund, that's about 45 years ago maybe. It was at a UNM, Young Nordic Music Day festival. And I remember it quite clearly because I got very drunk because I went into you still have a sauna, I'm sure, in Arvika at the music school. And I was sitting there with Magnus Lindberg, and Isa-Pekka Salonen, and they kept pouring vodka on the oven, you know, and it was very, very dangerous for everyone. It was terrible. So those are my very fond and warm memories from Ingesund. I think, you know, what you were asking, Ivry, is, you know, how can you as music schools, and even I think in the higher music education, be serious about both, or how do you reach out to both those who have, you know, should have a sort of who have a broader talent, so to speak, you know, I mean, who are not the individuals that become the first primarius of whatever string quartet, or the first one to stand on the orange scene at Roskilde Rock Festival, you know, I mean, how do you do that? I think it is very important to understand that it's actually two sides, and that's also what I've been trying to say in these two talks. It's two sides of the same thing. You have to be very good at performing, at playing, at you know, expressing yourself artistically or musically, but you also have to be a very, very good music pedagogue. You also have to have pedagogical skills. You also have to have entrepreneurial skills. It's all about being a good musician, and it's the whole musician. It has all these skills and will certainly have to have them in the future. And then you can always, of course, say, well, I mean, we differentiate our work, whether we are standing in, you know, the Royal Albert Hall and play whatever, you know, and play this, that, or the other, or whether we are out in a music school teaching this, that, or the other. I think London Symphony Orchestra and some of their outreach programs is a very, very good example of this. And they take it equally seriously. You know, I mean, they're very serious about their outreach work, and it's part of their orchestral duties actually to go out and do these things. And I think that kind of change in the way you think of pedagogical and society work is needed. And it should be, and it must be, and it will be a completely integrated and natural part of any musician's life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Julia, maybe you want to add something at the final point, and then we can conclude the session.
Yeah, I'm just very thankful to be with you and hear all the wonderful points from Thomas today, and it was very inspiring actually, and very inspiring conversation. So thank you for.
Of course, thank you, and it was very nice listening to you as well. I mean, I think the thing of being, exemplary and a role model and doing what you say you do is a very, very good and important point to make as well.
Exactly. Thank you both very, very much. And I'd like to say to our audience that this was the last session of the International Discussion Series, Freedom in Music Education, getting almost 20 speakers from 10 different countries and different time zones, from America to Georgia and to Sweden to Italy. It wasn't easy, but we did it. And I'm very thankful of the administration of the Tbilisi State Conservatory that we have this platform, and so many of you have watched the sessions. The videos, of course, will stay there on their Facebook page, and hopefully and surely international department will continue their work, our work, and we will also, of course, start a new project probably during next semester. And of course, the freedom in music education is the new way and the new steps for the Tbilisi State Conservatory and for the whole region for us to cover the EDI issues, the equality, diversity, inclusion, sustainability, digitalization, all these topics that are pretty much new, but are the priorities of the European Union, of our region, and our way. And one of our speakers was saying, yeah, this project, even if for the speakers it is just a 15-minute speech, is still like one small step towards the Europeanization of the institution and the country. And I'm really glad that all of our speakers were with us. And thanks again to Thomas Winter, Julia Mustоnen-Dahlquist. Thanks to Sofia who is the communication head of the Tbilisi State Conservatory, who were recording and putting everything on the website. And hopefully see you soon. And I'm really happy that our meeting was very positive, even despite the very, very tragic situation generally in the world. And thanks, Thomas, for your jokes and sharing Arvika experience.
And you're very welcome to edit them out.
Of course. Okay. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.